and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today we are checking out the decks that made the top 8 of the recent Mythic Invitational in Cleveland. We have 6 different decks. There were 3 copies of Mono Blue in the top 8, so I decided to go with the winner. And what we're going to do that's a little different today is rather than talk at length about each deck, I'm going to quickly cover any changes to the deck. The point is, I've already made decks about Mono Red, Mono White. I've made decks about Phoenix in the last format, multiples of them, 3 I think. In fact, I've made a video about Esper. None of these decks are dramatically different from what I've made videos of before. So we're instead going to do some quick hitters of some cards that stand out to me, then play one game of each and make one video that covers most of the top 8. Since there were 3 copies of Mono Blue, I'm going with this single copy of Mono Blue to cover, which is the deck that won the entire thing. The key cards in the deck, of course, are Tempest Jhin and Curious Obsession. You've heard me say it before in other videos. I'll say it again. What I love about the deck is all the play to it. The deck has a ton of decisions. It's very interesting. Every game is very different to me. I think some people would argue that that is not the case for them, and that is fine. I think it's a personality thing. The amount of decisions speaks to my personality. The difference in this deck is that there's only one Mistcloaked Herald, and there's only 17 creatures, so much less on the creatures, with Entrancing Melody and Essence Capture in the deck, as well as one Negate. It's a little bit more expensive. There's only one Chart a Course as well, so that seems like cutting some Chart a Course. We added more removal than normal, or more answers than normal to the deck. In the sideboard, you'll see it has 14 out of 15 cards. There's supposed to be one more Entrancing Melody. Yeah, you're supposed to go up to 4 Entrancing Melodies in some matchups, particularly in the mirror. There's also a basic island, which stands out to me as a way to make sure that you can cast Entrancing Melody for 4 or 5 more often. Jace, I don't know. Put in comments why we have sexy Jace. Deep Freeze mostly hits Niv Mizzet, Phoenix, Doom Whisperer if they play with that card. Surge Mare comes in against most anything that would attack you. Negate comes in against anything that would counter your spells. Essence Capture, creature heavy decks, pretty straightforward. And Disdainful Stroke, anybody with expensive spells. I think that all that is straightforward. You can watch a guide on Mono Blue to see an exclusive talk of that deck. Let's go get some sweet best of 1 action off this Mono Blue list. We're on the play with 1 land, no Curious Obsession, and a lot of the 1-drops. I'm going to mulligan this hand. That is not a lot better, but I'm going to keep it and try to hit a couple lands and get in the game. This is regretful. This is regretful. All right, a Pteramander off the top, but not a second land. Our opponent's led on a swamp. I'm not sure what that is these days, but I guess the deck that does run the most basic swamps is probably a Golgari or Sultai deck. And the opponent has elected to cast down the Pteramander before I get to untap and play a Spell Pierce, which is wise. Another Pteramander off the top. We'll see if the opponent keeps more answers up their sleeve. And it's a Llanowar Elf. And a Llanowar Elf. So we found another island. If that had come down last turn, I'd be more optimistic. This turn, it feels like I need to play this Trickster and then have Retort available. We could have gone for an upkeep tap an Elf, but I don't love that. I like holding up the Spell Pierce for a Vivian Reed, which is the card I'm most afraid of right now. Chupacabra instead is a bit unfortunate. And away goes our Pteramander. And we'll see if the opponent feels aggressive with these elves. Wow. A foursome, huh? I suppose I'll play one of these. All 4 Llanowar elves, what a meme. So now I have a Wizard's Retort available because I have a Trickster, but I don't want to trade with the Chupacabra, so I'm not attacking. And one Trickster can hold back 4 Llanowar Elves from attacking, so I think it's an important block on the clock. Here comes the Golgari Queen, which Spell Pierce is never going to counter, but I do feel we have to counter with the Retort, because I don't know what we'll do about this card eventually. It will just eat everything we have. It is sad to see the Spell Pierce be almost complete trash. I don't see a lot of good in playing another Trickster unless the opponent kills the one I have to attack, which they might do, and it does make sense to me. So yeah, I'm going to say go and sit on my second Trickster. And we're going to hope the opponent decides to target and kill this Trickster. They do not. Okay. Well, here is second Trickster. We'll tap this Chupacabra. I have a few 1/1s I can play. I'm going to... I guess I have to start this somewhere. If I attack with my Tricksters, the opponent probably won't gang block them, but then all the Elves can attack me on the way back, which they might not do since I have a couple of 1/1s, but I don't want to trade my 1/1s with the Elves. So I think the right attack is 1 Trickster, which I think the opponent will just take. But at least we did something, and we're not letting the opponent swing the race. We actually have more cards than they do by quite a bit now, and 2 of them are Tempest Djinn, which is very strong. So I'm hoping that they don't draw good cards that are expensive, and I'm hoping that we can just out-card them as long as we don't fall too far behind on tempo. Okay, it's all starting to come together. Again, I think I should save one of my Tricksters. If I don't, well, the opponent will block with Chupa, which they can get back with the Memorial to Folly, so I shouldn't attack with any of my Tricksters now. So we'll inflict this punishment. I think our opponent's last card is also a land. They are flooding insanely, but you take what you can get, as we were stuck on 1 land for a few turns and 2 lands for many more. Somehow we end up with an actual fight out of this ridiculous hand. Oh my. So this is where we certainly block the Elves. I think that there's a finality coming down and there's nothing we can really do about that. So we'll block all the Elves we can, but we don't want to block the Chupacabra. If there isn't a finality, and it is too bad I didn't leave a Spell Pierce available for that specific situation. Perhaps that was a mistake. And now our opponent can get back the Chupacabra, but they can't cast it the same turn. So we'll run out the Djinn. We might even make it curious. It is too bad. That Spell Pierce could have done something useful if I played 1 less creature. But when I saw the Elves, I didn't think about the opponent attacking with those Elves into the finality, which they may not have done, to be fair. They probably would keep 2 of those Elves back to pay for a Spell Pierce if they had seen... Oh no, not another one. Well, I guess I have the Pierce now. But again, well, if the opponent sacrifices the Memorial to Folly, the Pierce is potentially live, if this is used as a sweeper. The opponent is tanking on this, on whether or not they want this card. The thing is, if they're not getting Chupa, they're only getting Elves. It's not that good. So we need a dive down. Storm Tamer will do. If our opponent finalities after sacrificing this, we can counter it with a Spell Pierce. So we'll do this the hard way, I think. Our opponent will either go for the finality, or they'll go... Or they'll go for the Chupa. I would expect them to go for the Chupa, but if I play the Storm Tamer, they won't. Ooh, this is tricky. So if I play the Storm Tamer, they will not go for a Chupacabra. And if they don't go for the Chupa, they may not sack the Memorial. But I think they will sack the Memorial anyway. Well, right now this is out of the finality range. So I don't need to worry about that. That's why I need a minute to think sometimes, to avoid the comments screaming at me. about things I miss, as opposed to the comments screaming about me about how long I take. Yep, Folly for Chupa. Draw Finality, find Finality. Play Chupa, counter Chupa effect. Yeah, we will not be blocking because we need our Storm Tamer very badly to counter this Chupa's effect. Oh. Again, this lives. So this is to get rid of the Storm Tamer. So I may as well Spell Pierce it because the opponent did sack the Memorial to Folly. All right, that is a huge draw. And it's got to be the game, I think. I think we stole this one. Our opponent flooded viciously. We mana screwed for a few minutes, but got out of it. It's one of those classic ugly but brutal games. Dragon Shield sleeves are only $7.99 on flipsidegaming.com right now. And if you use the promo code CGB at checkout, you will save 10% and support the channel at the same time. So remember to use the promo code CGB. Deck number 2 is Akawa's Esper deck. I'm not going to make any changes to the deck right now and just go run it in best of 1 as it is. It seems pretty geared against aggro with Cry of the Canarium and Kaya's Wrath. The win cons here are Karn minusing to make tokens or the Eldest Reborn getting back a threat from the opponent, and when in doubt, the Teferi Tuck, which most people, when they ask WinCon ? I think are trolling me at this point. We all know the Teferi Tuck. Put Teferi back in your deck over and over until the opponent runs out of cards. In the sideboard, there is a Kaya, which in other decks has become the one of WinCon. I used it in my Diamond Esper deck. Also, this deck loves to bring in Thief of Sanity, Hostage Taker, and Lyra after board and become basically an Esper mid-range deck in matchups where they find that is beneficial. The extra Moment of Craving can often come in best of 1 meta. I would probably bring the 1 of Moment of Craving in, and I can take the 1 of Chemister's Insight out because the best of meta is faster. I would also exchange the Karn for the Kaya because of the amount of mono red that you play against in best of 1. And other than that, I don't think that there are too many changes that need to be made. The amount of cheap aggressive cards in best of 1 also makes me want to remove the Eldest Reborn and run Karn instead, but both are pretty weak against aggro. I'm going to play it now with those couple of sideboard changes for best of 1, and let's go into the games. Tap land, tap land. Not what you like to see. We need a Watery Grave or something off the top to let these come into play untapped very badly. We're on the draw. What I like is that we have Cry of the Canarium and Kaya's Wrath against an aggressive deck to catch up with almost any land we draw, as well as another Moment and Cast Down to buy time. So we'll try this hand. Oh, right off the top. Did it, but we don't have double black, which is something to keep an eye on, my friends. Here is the Wild Growth Walker. Here's our black source. We have Cast Down and Moment of Craving open. Let's say go. The opponent was second Wild Growth Walker. Okay. I don't know if I want to use a removal yet. In fact, I don't think that I actually do. With Kaya's Wrath in hand, I think I can deal with these. And I can also just wait on my removals, save my removal spells. Okay. So the opponent missed a land drop. They might be a land away from a Jadelight Ranger, all part of that plan. I'm trying to decide whether or not I should absorb or play Search for Iskanta, and I think I should keep the absorb available. I think if I play Search for Iskanta and the opponent plays Branchwalker and I don't find my black source, that's a way to lose. Whereas if I absorb the first Branchwalker, perhaps they don't have another, or if it's a Jadelight Ranger. So I'm going to use the absorb first. And there's Branchy. Here's Absorby. I know, the plan is to blow it all up eventually anyway, but with my opponent stuck on land, I don't want them to get the Explore trigger. Now I'm the one stuck on land, so let's run out the Search for Iskanta to try to find some. If the opponent hits their Explore creatures now, well, it's a Midnight Reaper. That's unfortunate. That thing needs to die, and it would be nice if it could die from Cry of the Canarium, because that would exile it. So, here's Teferi. We can't keep it. We need land. We fail to find land. This is getting dicey. All right, I'm going to pass the turn and see what our opponent does. Okay, they've top decked 2 lands in a row. They're doing very well for themselves. I'm going to take this damage to leave Absorb open through the entire phase. And if they do nothing on their end step, I may kill this Midnight Reaper. There's also a lot to be said for doing nothing since I have Kaya's Wrath in hand, but I don't want my opponent to draw 3 cards. So, let's use the Moment of Craving. It gives us back some life. And by waiting till the end step, the opponent doesn't get to use that card this turn. So I'm going to graveyard this negate because it's still not a land. And things are definitely getting shaky in here. The longer our opponent gets, the less good our Wrath actually gets. So because of the boost that this gives the creatures and the fact that our opponent needs the land, I'm going to absorb the Jade Light Ranger. They would have played it last turn if they had it, so that's the card they drew off the top, I think. Which means they don't have another land or another play. Okay, somewhere along the line they found a Llanowar Elf. Graveyard, this is kind of amazing. It's tempting to kill the Llanowar Elf because a Vivian Reed or a large, or I guess a Carnage Tyrant isn't game over. Vivian Reed's what I really don't want to face. However, I don't think it's worth it, so I have to say go. So we drew a land right off the top of our 2-land hand, but haven't found one since, which is making things hard. There are 23 more lands in the deck, which makes us over 50% to draw a land, and we're seeing 2 cards a turn and still not doing it. So this is bad luck, and that's the card we did not want to see.
Would you like to see what's left of Skull?
All right, we're blowing up Search for Azcanta right away.
Get that out of here.
All right, big draw for a land. I don't think I want to kill any of these. I think I just want to draw this land. Ouch. All right, well, main phase is a little bit broken here. Should I take out the Wildgrowth Walker or the Llanowar Elf and try to contain my opponent's mana? I sort of want them to play out their things, so killing the elf isn't a big deal. We have to discard. I don't want to discard, so I may as well play a removal spell, and I'll play the most expensive one. So let's take out one of these Wildgrowth Walkers and try to reduce the amount of damage we will take.
You can't stop nature.
So now that we have the Vraska's Contempt, I really want to find a black mana off the top. I'll even Contempt this first and take plenty of damage to slow down Vivian. There's the Jade Light. And bins the stuff. Now the Walker can get in there. Opponent must have a good amount of removal in hand. Okay, that's not a black source. I don't see a path. Let's see, this is an 8-point attack. So it's likely that we need to kill the Walker or the Jade Light Ranger just to stay alive and get another draw at the top. If the opponent explores again, it's a lethal attack, so we'll have to cast something down. If they don't, we could use the Chemister's Insight, but I don't think that's going to work out. Playing around Settle the Wreckage. That could be fortunate. So what's representing the most damage is the Jade Light Rangers, so let's take that out. And try to preserve our life total just a little bit. And what's the follow-up? Carnage Tyrant. That gives us one shot at this black mana. We did it. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. Oh, that's so mean.
I've seen things that would break someone.
Unfortunately, we still have a Vivian to worry about, and it's foolish to assume the opponent can't get the Carnage Tyrant back somehow, as they'll probably find finality eventually. Not only that, we have to keep these creatures off our back and figure out a way to remove the Vivian, but that turn went about as well as it could. because now we can contempt the Vivian. So there is a problem with that. The problem with that is I think our opponent is likely to have another Vivian Reed. If they do, that's very negative. And it's actually further ahead in loyalty. So we have a few interesting options where, like, we could Kaya's Wrath, cast down their follow-up threat, untap, exile the Vivian Reed. But what if this finds a Carnage Tyrant? Our opponent's already shown that they're playing some, and we don't see the Sultai mix, so there's probably multiple Tyrants. But they thought so hard about that last Tyrant, I don't think that they have another in hand, or it wouldn't have been so hard to do. So I'm going to take this line of cutting off Vivian Reed,
I'll be back.
which might have found another Carnage Tyrant. I could take 2 and cast down this Jadelight Ranger, or I could go to 2. And it's a 2 life point savings to cast the Jadelight down, but I have a Kaya's Wrath. So I'm going to enter tapped. I was afraid of that.
How this thing goes is up to you, pal.
At least it only found another forest. Here comes the pain. Now we're at 2 life. Yeah, I should have played the black mana for cast down in hindsight. So now we have to Wrath or we have to Cry cast down. Wrath works on Carnage Tyrant, which is a good reason to hold it. We could also use both of our instant speed removal spells and save the Cry, but Cry doesn't have that many targets. So let's Cry. And then we're going to Mortify. And the reason I'm going to Mortify is I want to be able to play Teferi and have cast down next turn if the opponent's follow-up is just a singular creature. We're also going to Mortify on our turn because it will exile the Jadelight Ranger instead of putting it in the graveyard. Probably not a big deal, but it might matter someday.
Balance comes.
Memorial to Folly. That can be a Carnage Tyrant. That's annoying. But
Sometime leave before I make you disappear.
and is there a creature? Is there a creature follow-up? That's very important. I do think my opponent has a Vraska's Contempt, too, as one of these last cards. I hope it's a cast down, but it's probably a Vraska's Contempt. Oh. Okay. And there's the creature. There's my Vraska's Contempt. So I like getting Teferi down and getting it plussing, but at the expense of these Planeswalkers continuing to plus, that's not very good. So I can exile Vivian. I think the mana boost from Teferi does make it worth it, though. I think it makes it worth it, because we have the Wrath, too, for whatever Vivian finds. I just hope that this card is not a Vraska's Contempt. But the mana boost from Teferi can really help us sort of come back and play multiple spells a turn. Yep, here's the attack. Let's just hope it doesn't draw a Contempt from my opponent.
Now what?
Ouch. Is there still enough mana to play the Tyrant? There is, if our opponent plays the Forest. And there's the monster.
Meet my newest friend.
Another Memorial to Folly. This is going to get really repetitive. Alright. So, let's get in the hand a little bit. Jadelight Ranger, Vraska's Contempt, Chupacabra. Everything's lethal. I guess I can take the Ranger. Another land. Now we're starting to hit the flood zone. Here's the Kaya's Wrath. The opponent will replay it next turn, I think. Well, yeah. If they have an untapped land, they can do that. Vivian Reed, ultimate going off, though. I don't think I played this particularly well. If I could go back, I think I would have found a way to do... That turn was probably Contempt Vivian and cast down the Reaper, not play Teferi. That was a bit too aggressive. I think it was the line that gave me the best chance to get back in, but I don't think I had to do that. I don't think I absolutely had to. Other than that, I should have used a cast down a little bit earlier instead of taking as much damage as I did. So there were 2 key turns there where I think I made critical mistakes in this game. And if I could play it again, it would still be really hard to win. But these are one of those games that you have to find ways to win, to be an elite player, which I am not. To be totally honest with all of you, I'm not an elite player at this stage in my career. But one of the things that helps me try to get better and keep getting better is that I look for the things I did wrong.
Nature brings your reckoning.
And I can tell you about those things. So maybe that will be good.
I guess today's your lucky day.
So, good game. And we'll just play you out tapped and say go. And the opponent ends it in a classy manner. Good job, opponent. Mana necklaces have arrived at hauntedflower.com. These necklaces are a great way to show your favorite MTG colors. Remember to use the promo code CGB at checkout to save 10%. That is promo code CGB on hauntedflower.com. Next up is what some would call Azorius. I'm going to call mono white because we're playing best of one. You'll see that the blue splash is only for sideboard cards, and this isn't the only archetype you'll see this strategy from. But Disdainful Stroke, Negate, Spell Pierce to help in matchups that are close to unwinnable, including a basic island as well. And that would primarily be the Nexus matchup. Otherwise, you bring in some Baffling Ends and some Honor Guards when you're brawling with a Sultai deck, some Ajanis. I also think the Disdainful Stroke should come in against Sultai. Because we are playing best of one, I'm going to make sure that I cut the blue cards and run it up to 20 planes. Just cuz smart. His hand is 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop. What more could you ask for in life? We have one of the Baffling Ends from the main deck, and there's one of Ajani in the main deck for a little bit of spice from Marcio Carvalho. Let's lead with the Sky Marcher. Mirror? Ruh-roh. Well, I'm definitely not attacking with anything quite this turn, but we can have an Ajani next turn after attacks, which is pretty sweet. Let's play this and protect our Aspirant and say go. See what our opponent has for the board. Could it be something like a Tithe Taker? It is a Tithe Taker. All right. We have an interesting choice here about flipping the landing, and I think I want to Baffling End the Tithe Taker, because if we attack with all of these, the opponent goes, like, say, block, block, something like that. They might not block at all, though. They might be trying to set something up. If we don't have enough creatures for the Ajani, and if the opponent has 2 1/1s to sort of reverse pressure the Ajani, that's pretty bad. Still, I don't think the opponent... Let's see. If they block here, I sack here to save this. If they block here, all I have left is this 2-1, and they have 2 1/1s. It's pretty bad. I think I need to make this play, which I don't love. I would love to save that for a Marshall, but I think this is where I need to be to make sure that my Ajani isn't... that I don't fall too far behind on the board to have this Ajani. And that's a good block. From the opponent, I mean, not for me. And then we can play our Tithe Taker and end the turn. Our opponent's landing, all right. And what power do they have to go with this? An Aspirant, okay. And a Dauntless, that's a lot of things. If they have an Elephant and we don't, we're in a lot of trouble. But I think what I want to do, they're on 8 permanents, so this Sky Marcher is almost ascended, which is going to pressure Ajani very well, and all I draw is a Plains. It's kind of a train wreck. I shouldn't have played that first main. I should not have played that first main, because what I should do is attack with the Tithe Taker and see if the opponent will block it. But they're going to want to flip their landing anyway, which means I think I'll get to trade this Tithe Taker. And if I'm going to trade the Tithe Taker, and that's what I want to do, I want to grow these. And now we'll kick it over. Second landing. Yeah, we need a Convoke card. Whether that's a Conclave Tribunal or an Elephant. Elephant would be better. Oh, man. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the pressure. We need a good draw. Not another land. Tithe Taker again. Well, I could get back my own Sky Marcher to block my opponent's Sky Marcher. Then I would have 4 blockers versus 6 attackers, which means Ajani would die. And I can't trade off very well with my opponent's creatures. I think I'm better off making bigger creatures. And I think the most mana efficient creatures I can make would be making a token and buffing that, because it could also have lifelink, as opposed to playing Tithe Taker. And yep, grow the lifelinkers, get them ready for combat. I do believe Ajani's going to die, but we need some sizing on our side to try to buy time to draw some Benelish Marshals or an Unbreakable Formation. Jesus. Well, our opponent killed us on this one. But they're not willing to get frisky? I guess they don't want the Venerate, they don't want the Tithe Taker. Well, here they come. Weird. So they wanted to flip landing. That's a pretty conservative attack. Let's go to blockers. Let's block here and here. Ajani will go to 2. I will have a flyer.
Very well.
All right, the Benelish Marshals have to start now. Not impressive, but we can play it. We can play it. So what needs to grow? The 1/1 can only chump the Sky Marcher, but I guess that can make other things larger. So I don't want to grow the 1/1. Let's keep growing. Let's keep growing these. And I guess I can grow you too. Sizing matters a lot when the opponent's trying to attack into you.
Look how far you
Now, I like playing a Tithe Taker too, because we can make another 1/1 to buy another turn of Ajani. So we'll play another Tithe Taker as well. If the opponent attacks in, Tithe Taker can chump. I don't think they will. I think this is all about Sky Marcher now. And it gives, by chumping with this token, I give myself another turn to try to find my own Sky Marcher, or I can minus Ajani to get it. Unfortunately, my Sky Marcher will not be the right size. Okay. Okay. So we go here. Are you protecting someone? You're protecting you. So, for 3, I guess we'll put you in front and... Well, if I put another creature on, the opponent doesn't have to kill it. Why don't I just do this and then I have another 1/1 and then these get even bigger? So next turn this can't attack at all. Fight back, Ajani. We need you on this. We need you on our side. Okay. It's an interesting draw. So do I continue plussing my critters? I can plus the Sky Marcher, and then it can block the Sky Marcher. And then I can plus the Lifelinker, and then the opponent's going to have a very hard time attacking into it. I like this. I don't like minusing the Ajani until I absolutely have to. The opponent is impressed with my Sky Marcher. Let's keep growing this 5/5 here.
Be strong.
And I still don't feel like I have attacks. My opponent's making 2/2s out of their Adonto, which is frustrating. Another play to watch out for is Tithe Taker. If that comes down, I can't activate my Adonto, so I would have to activate in response to a Tithe Taker. Just a little tip for the mirror. So is the opponent willing to throw away some resources before Ajani starts doing too much work? I do think that ultimating Ajani is better than trying to get back more creatures unless I have a really compelling reason to do so. As that can actually get me all the way back into the game. Okay. Here's some stuff. What are you protecting? The Aspirant. That's right. So, let's make a token. Let's block the Aspirant. The opponent will sack the Bodyguard. It's okay. We had to go through this some point. Let's put the Lifelinkers in front of the Loxodon. I guess I'll put Snubs over there too and give the opponent a chance to misassign damage. They could take out 2 creatures instead of 1, but then I'd have more lifelink. Maybe I don't want to give that option. Yeah, I'm just not going to give them that option because there are situations where they could play that to their advantage. But I want all the lifelinkers in front to gain as much life as I possibly can. And the opponent did not use the Bodyguard. I think that's a mistake. I think they forgot what this was on. Ooh. The problem is I need blockers. So playing this is like giving up on a Johnny, which I do not want to do. So there's probably a right amount of blockers I could have. Let's start here. Let's have the biggest creature on the board with the Snubhorn Sentry. And let's increase the size of this 1/1 so it can actually trade with something in combat.
I will lend you my strength.
I could make a 1/1 and have like 3 4/4s. The opponent could really swing all out on the Ajani. They could kill it, but I would kill their Benelish Marshal, which I think is definitely a worthy trade. But remember, they're going to make another creature. I don't want to be in a situation where they can attack with all these and not this and get there. So I think I just play you, which is really unfortunate, but I think is right for this exact scenario because it can eat some of these tokens for free. If the opponent has to move on this Ajani eventually if I'm going to push the ultimate, or they have to draw a Conclave Tribunal. It's weird to play Loxodon that way, but I just don't think I can expose my... I think that I've got to make this game about the Ajani, and that's a big draw. It's a big draw. So I've got the largest critters. I should keep reinforcing that I have the largest critters, but the Marshal will take care of that. So let's enforce on the... Let's push the lifelink again. Make them bigger. And let's get our own Benelish Marshal going. Thank God. The opponent does not like this. They're very unhappy. But the idea is if they can't draw a Conclave Tribunal, let's force them to really swing all out into Ajani. And if they refuse to do... And that will really hurt their board. They're also just trying to draw another Anthem or something like that to make their swing a lot better. Dauntless is very good here. Dauntless can protect the Marshal so that it can get into combat without risk. Let's do that. We're getting close to that 7. So what do we want to grow? They've got a lot of 3-power cards here. We've got some 4-power ones. We've got a 6. Right now this would be a baby in combat, so I'd like it to have another counter. And I guess this is the other baby in combat, but I plan to sacrifice it anyway. So I guess buffing the Marshal's a good move since I have some indestructibility on it, although they'll probably play like some kind of exile effect if they get rid of it anyway. But they haven't been able to draw Tribunal yet. Big turn coming. The opponent has to deal with a Johnny. Do they top deck Tribunal? Do they top deck an Anthem? Something to make this work. It looks like a Tribunal. Okay. Target. If it's a Johnny, all right. The Benelish Marshal might have been a good target there. So the opponent did it. They ripped the Tribunal. Then they show us the last land they had because they want to use their first for it. But now we can start getting in there. History of Benalia is a great draw. We are swinging the tide. But with all these lifelinkers on the ground, we want our attacks to be in the air as much as possible. Or we wait for an unbreakable formation, which whoever draws one of those first can really swing this game. The amount of lifelink on the board is crazy. Tithe Taker. Anything we need to do in response? No. Alright, my turn. Aspirant, more flying pressure. Excellent. Hiya. And here is my Sky Marcher. The opponent is very impressed with all of my plays. I imagine you have some of the similar cards in your own deck. And the card off the top, what could it be? They are excited to play it. It is a baffling end. That's going to take our Marshal out or one of the flyers. And they choose the Marshal. Interesting. Now remember, I can't use the Adanto. I should have done that on my turn. That was a mistake. It's the Tithe Taker. It always gets somebody somewhere somehow. Thanks to a Johnny, we still have some decent size on our creatures. It makes it hard for the opponent to attack. For example, if they only attack with their 3 power cards, we block with some of our 4 toughness and 5 toughness cards. But I'm pretty sure this doesn't work. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. It was lit up. I gave it a shot. And I don't want to attack in here. It lets the opponent gain a lot of life. So there won't be any sneaky attacks off the back end of Benalia. So who needs to be indestructible? We could make it the Sky Marcher so it can keep attacking through things. I guess I'll go with the token, but I like something that's going to be in combat, and these are going to be attacking for the foreseeable future. And I like it to be something that's likely to trade. So I'm going to make it this lifelinking token here. And then we do this on our turn to avoid the Tithe Taker owning us again. And if this game comes down to 1 token, then I get the oops for that one. Eventually these have to start attacking. What we want to do is make it many of them get thrown away as possible into the Snubhorn and the Loxodon and such. Yeah, here we go. The party is beginning. The opponent should activate landing first because they're going to flip the other one. Okay, I'm definitely not blocking the Tithe Taker, and there's not a good reason to block the Hunted Witness. So we can go here, here. We could also absorb more of the lifelink if we needed to by blocking with Dauntless and then sacrificing them, but I don't like that play right now. This is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's a lot of damage, but I really want like a Marshal or another way to make my creatures bigger. And we did take out 4 of their creatures and gain 6 life. So that doesn't make the race great for them. And now a Snubhorn. But they now have a big life total that we have to peck away at. And the beat goes on. It's not a great race for us until we get more Anthems or have better top decks. Because our opponent can reload and just do this over and over. Our Benalia's, our opponent keeps saying nice, but they're not doing us any good against the army of Lifelink over here. Not as long as this Benalish Marshal lives. And no attacks here. Okay, we have our own Marshal. That's a good thing. Maybe we need a count on the nice emotes. I could mute the opponent, but it wouldn't do that much. Anyway, I'm still sticking to the air raid. Because all the lifelink that's available on the ground would let the opponent make some really nice blocks and not have to worry about our damage very much. If I were the opponent, though, I'd keep attacking with Tithe Taker, which they're not doing. I can't really block it. If I do, I have to trade it away with some of my flyers, which my flyers are trying to set it up so that the opponent has to throw their creatures into mine at a crucial time. A Tithe Taker token trading with something like that would be very good for the opponent. We'll just make this token now. It's important to remember that these are activated abilities. But this one doesn't have a target, so I don't have to worry about it. But this one does, and I'd want to pay the 1 for it with Tithe Taker on my opponent's turn. So there's a history for my opponent. Just more crap on the ground, right? Okay, Adanto, not very great for us. Still not a good attack on the ground. You have to remember all the lifelink. If you're not thinking about the lifelink, that is not good. I'll play you. So do I play the Adanto or do I make another lifelink token? I think the lifelinkers are just better in this stage of the game. Attacking with this just gives my opponent like 1,000,000 life because they can gang block the Adanto. So yeah, I'll do this on my turn so that I have Dauntless activations open. I may even want to sacrifice the empty one to prevent my opponent from gaining some life if they do a conservative attack. Yep, they're down to 4, but it may be time to throw their creatures into the maw of hell again. But this time we have a Benalish Marshal, which is a big advantage for us. I mean, we both do, but my creatures are still left over slightly bigger. Now the Tithe Taker gets busy. If that's all they attack with, that's a severe under attack. And it is. We can prevent that lifelink by sacrificing our bodyguards. So we block here, and we block here, and we're going to accept damage from the Tithe Taker. Block. I wonder if we'll get an oops out of our opponent. Sacrifice Dauntless. We have to pay the 1. Sacrifice Dauntless. So that keeps the lifelink damage from happening. The opponent gains nothing. Now they have to answer the flyers. They have to have drawn like Baffling End or Conclave Tribunal, or they need a flyer themselves. And we didn't block the Tithe Taker, so they don't get one for free. Man, is that the way that this epic battle comes to an end? There's a nice and a scoop. We got them to make a mistake. We got them to blink.